What's going on, everybody? My name is Johann Castro for UnknownMMA.com, and welcome to once again another edition of Afterthoughts. This time we are recapping UFC Mexico City, and we might as well start with the elephant in the room, which was the main event, or the lack thereof, I guess is a better way of putting it, because it wasn't really a fight. It was 15 seconds of Yair Rodriguez throwing a leg kick and then throwing a downward slap of some sort. I honestly don't know. It was a strange sequence of events. Jeremy Stephens, of course, I think scratched his cornea, looked like a scratched cornea. Couldn't continue. Fight was a no contest. And yeah, a very anticlimactic ending to what was a pretty exciting card up and down. Yeah, I mean, it sucks when things like that happen, but this is MMA. It's a crazy ass sport, and even though it sucks that we didn't get to see Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stephens fight, because I think it would have been a fantastic fight. I anticipate it to be a fantastic fight. But even though we didn't see it, it's not the end of the world, and it sucks, but I think when the time is right, they'll match make that fight again. My guess is, given the UFC's pattern when it comes to strange occurrences like this, we'll probably see a rematch, which I'm not mad at. I mean, again, I think it would be a fantastic fight, but I don't think it needs to happen. I think it's one of those fights where, yeah, it sucks that it happened, but featherweight's one of those weight classes where there are so many great fighters in the top 15 that you could really matchmake anyone, and it would be a fantastic fight, or at least it would be a fight that would bring some intrigue. I want to kind of see Jeremy Stephens fight the Korean Zombie. Or why not see Yair Rodriguez fight Brian Ortega? Or something of that nature, I'm not married to the idea of seeing a rematch of this. I think that'll probably be what happens. I wouldn't be against it. But let's leave our minds open. It sucks. Again, it sucks that it happened. But it's MMA, and crazier things have happened on much crazier nights. So that's my whole take on the main event. Not really a lot to take away from it. It wasn't even really a fight. It was 15 seconds of feeling out before the injury occurred. So sucks for both guys, but hey, what are you gonna do? It happens in the sport. Moving on to the co-main event, which let's just call this the main event because it ended up basically being the main event. We had Carla Esparza fighting Alexa Grasso. Now, going into this fight, looking at the weigh-ins and at the media day, when these two ladies faced off, the first thing that came to my mind was, good God, Alexa Grasso is so much bigger than Carla Esparza. I mean, she is, like, when they would face off, I remember watching the media day face-offs and thinking to myself, Alexa Grasso looks like a whole different weight class compared to Carla Esparza. Now, Carla Esparza is small. I mean, she's one of the smallest strawweights on the roster. But what's so interesting about Carla Esparza is she became a champion for a reason. She's one of the more technically skilled strawweights on the roster. And even though her resume and her record doesn't really reflect it because she's lost to some of the more, shall we say, championship-level fighters in the division, we got to remember that Carla Esparza is a real pioneer for the strawweights. She's almost the OG strawweight, won the Ultimate Fighter, and has always had this really strong grappling base that very few girls can contend with. I mean, when you think about the last time she's had a tough fight, it was against Tatiana Suarez, who does basically the same thing at a more refined and a more elite level. But Carla Esparza, we tend to forget just how good she actually is. Now is she going to be a champion again? I highly doubt it. I don't think she matches up well with anybody ranked above her. I think she's pretty much solidified as that in like that number 7 to number 9 range as a gatekeeper, which is fine. I think that's a great position for her because she is a standard that I think a lot of younger fighters need to try to set themselves to. She's a talented fighter. She's got a fantastic wrestling game. I mean, she gave Cynthia Calvillo trouble when they fought, and Calvillo's a great grappler. Calvillo's a girl that people were pining as being the one to fight for the title maybe later that next year. That was in 2017 they fought. And yeah, I mean, now look at Calvillo. Calvillo's ranked, I think, 11th. Now, she was suspended briefly, but Carla just has that ability. She's very underrated in a lot of people's eyes. But she's still one of the elite strawweights in this division. And, she showed Alexa Grasso, or I should say, she put that on display against Alexa Grasso. And Alexa Grasso coming into this fight, great performance against Carolina in June. But comes into this fight against Esparza, totally different stylistic matchup, and once again, we see a weakness with Grasso's game. And a lot of people scored that fight for Grasso. I scored it 2-1 in favor of Carla. Maybe if you want to give that last round a 10-8 for Grasso, it's a draw. But I think Carla Esparza won that fight pretty decisively. She definitely took the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. And she's once again solidified herself as being a legit top 10 strawweight. Again, probably never going to be a champion again, but she's one of those ladies who will always be right there. She is a benchmark that I think a lot of these younger fighters should have to go past in order to get to that upper echelon. Have to fight the Andrades, the Rose Namajunas, the Tatiana Suarez, and then eventually the Weili Zhangs. So a good fight all in all, and I think it really set the tone. And I think Alexa Grasso, listen, she has a ton of talent. I think she'll be back. She'll get another win under her belt. She'll probably fight somebody in the bottom half of the top 15. Maybe somebody like off the top of my head, I'm blanking right now. Maybe like a Courtney Casey or somebody. I don't really know. I'd have to look at the rankings. But she'll be back. I think she's still very talented, and I think Alexa Grasso's got a bright future. Now, moving on to what I think was the most important fight on the card, that was the flyweight feature fight between Brandon Moreno and ASKAROV. Now, a lot of people coming into this fight, they didn't know very much about ASKAROV. They knew he was Dagestani, so by default, they knew he was elite in so many ways, a great grappler, great sambo. But he really put it on display against Moreno. The fight was a draw, rightfully so. I had it personally 2-1 for ASKAROV, but I'm not mad at a draw. I think Moreno did enough to where he didn't lose the fight, if that makes any sense. But what I really take away from that fight is the future at 125 is very bright. I think there are so many great prospects and great up-and-coming contenders at 125 right now. And, we have Henry Cejudo at the top. He's supposed to defend it against Joseph Benavidez. But what really makes me ecstatic after watching that fight is Moreno, I think, has improved greatly since his first UFC tenure. And ASKAROV, if that kid can get some striking, he's going to be a threat. He might be the one to dethrone Henry Cejudo eventually. But that division just looks so nice right now. Kai Kara France, he won a few weeks ago. He looks fantastic. Mark De La Rosa, even though he lost to Kai Kara France, looks really good if he just polishes up a little bit. Rogerio Bontorin, I'd like to see him get maybe a couple more fights, but he looks really nice. I think flyweight looks really good right now. And then I want to close this Afterthoughts piece up with this, and that is the impact that Latin America has on the UFC. And I think it's really something interesting to look at because this card featured 4 of the 5 most popular Mexican fighters of all time, the most popular being Cain Velasquez, and who knows if he'll ever fight again. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, the 4 most popular Mexican fighters at the moment. And take a second to reflect on what this has done for the UFC. Cain Velasquez basically created this market in Mexico. Now we have Yair Rodriguez, Grasso, and the likes just carrying it. And I think it's really big for MMA. I want to see some pay-per-views come back to Mexico City. I think it'll be fantastic going forward. And it's nice to see what the UFC is doing in Latin America. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this edition of Afterthoughts. My name is Johann Castro, and I will see you next time. Have fun. Enjoy the fights.